Have you ever wondered how one simple act of kindness could completely reshape your destiny? Imagine a humble waiter, struggling to make ends meet in a small, rundown diner, when the smallest gesture, one he thought meant nothing, opened the door to a fortune beyond his wildest dreams. But what if that act wasn't just a stroke of luck? What if it was the key to something much bigger, something that would change his life forever? This is the extraordinary true story of how a single, seemingly insignificant moment turned a simple life into an empire. All thanks to one powerful and unexpected connection. Leo worked at a small, bustling diner on the edge of the city, where the neon sign flickered more often than it glowed. The worn-out booths, the clink of silverware, and the hum of conversations from disinterested patrons set the rhythm of his daily life. The diner wasn't much just a place for people to grab a quick meal, but for Leo, it was his world. He moved between the cramped tables with quiet efficiency, a smile on his face that was as much a mask as it was a courtesy. He wasn't special in the eyes of most customers, just another waiter lost in the shuffle of 1,000 similar faces. But beneath his unassuming exterior, Leo harbored dreams too big for his reality. He dreamed of leaving this life behind, of finding something more, something that could pull him out of the endless cycle of waiting tables and surviving on small tips. Yet, there was a quiet fear that lived within him, a fear of being forgotten, of never achieving anything beyond the diner. Deep down, he knew that without a change, without something extraordinary happening, he would remain stuck in this life forever. Despite this, Leo wasn't jaded. He still believed in the power of kindness, of treating people with respect, no matter how they treated him in return. It was this very belief that made him stand out in a world that often overlooked him. Little did he know, this simple trait would be the key to unlocking a life he never thought possible, one filled with wealth, opportunity, and a destiny he had never imagined. Leo had always been a creature of habit. Every morning, he woke up to the shrill sound of his alarm clock, dragged himself out of bed, and dressed in the same faded uniform he'd worn for the last 3 years. He'd grab a quick breakfast, a cup of coffee, and a slice of toast, and walked a few blocks to the diner. It was routine, predictable, and comfortable in its monotony. There was no room for surprises in Leo's life. That is, until the day he walked in. It was a Tuesday afternoon when the man appeared. The diner wasn't particularly busy, just a few regulars scattered around, each lost in their own world. The hum of idle chatter, mixed with the sizzle of food from the kitchen, and the scent of bacon and eggs lingered in the air. Leo, as usual, was at his post, refilling coffee cups and clearing empty plates. He had no reason to expect that today would be different. But when the door swung open, it was as though the entire room had shifted. The man who entered was striking, though not in a way that screamed for attention. He was dressed simply, in a dark jacket and jeans, the kind of outfit that blended in, but still carried an air of quiet authority. His hair was silver, but his eyes were sharp, taking in every detail as he surveyed the room. He seemed like he was lost in thought, or perhaps trying to avoid attention. He had an undeniable presence. Leo noticed him immediately, but nothing about the man seemed unusual. He took a seat in a corner booth, the most secluded spot in the diner. Leo continued his work, but he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something different about this customer. It wasn't the way he sat, nor the fact that he seemed to be a man of few words. No, it was something more, something beneath the surface. But Leo wasn't one to pry. He just did his job, making sure everyone was taken care of. His friendly smile, the only thing he could offer in a world that often felt indifferent to him. But as the man placed his order, something caught Leo off guard. Instead of a typical request, the man spoke only a few quiet words. "I'll have the soup and water, please." "No rush." Leo nodded, jotted it down, and moved on to the next table. But as he turned away, he felt a subtle pull-a-tug at his curiosity. Why had the man said no rush? It was such an odd phrase for someone to use in a diner, especially when it wasn't like there was any urgency in the air. But Leo had learned long ago to not question people's choices. Everyone had their reasons, no matter how strange they might seem. So, he brushed it off, focusing on the task at hand. It was only when the soup arrived, lukewarm and slightly overcooked, that Leo's attention snapped back to the man. He didn't seem irritated, but Leo could sense the slight disappointment in his expression. It wasn't anger, just quiet frustration. Most customers would have complained, some would have even left a scathing review on the diner's social media page. But this man, with his quiet presence, just sat there, waiting. Leo couldn't help but notice the way he observed everything around him. The way his eyes lingered on the flickering neon sign outside, the way his fingers drummed lightly on the table as though he was waiting for something to happen. It was as if he were studying the world around him with a meticulous, almost academic eye. The thought made Leo uneasy. He had no idea why, but something told him that this was not a chance encounter. Determined to make things right, Leo returned to the table. "I'm sorry, sir. It seems the soup came out a little cold. I'll get that fixed for you right away." The man's eyes flickered up, but he didn't seem bothered. "It's all right," he said softly. "It's not the soup that matters." Leo blinked, momentarily thrown off guard. Most customers would have grumbled at the inconvenience, perhaps asking for a refund or free dessert. But this man wasn't like other customers. He wasn't demanding or rude. He was patient. It was as if he didn't care about the minor inconvenience at all. He cared about something else. But Leo had no idea what that was. He smiled politely, though confusion gnawed at the edges of his mind. "I'll get a fresh one for you," he said. As Leo left to retrieve the soup, he couldn't shake the sense that something wasn't right. Little did he know, that was the moment when everything was about to change. The stranger, now sitting quietly in the corner, wasn't just any customer. His calm demeanor hid something far more powerful. He wasn't waiting for a new bowl of soup, he was waiting for a sign that would alter Leo's life forever. The soup was quickly replaced, and the man ate in silence, his gaze once again fixed on the outside world. It was as if he were waiting for something more than a simple meal, something unseen, something beyond the immediate world around him. Leo noticed the small details, the faint smile the man gave when he took his first sip, the way he set the spoon down carefully after every bite, as if savoring each moment. Leo didn't think much of it at the time, but as the man finished his meal and stood to leave, he caught a glimpse of something, a subtle glint in the man's eyes. It was fleeting, almost imperceptible, but it was there. A knowing look, as though the man had seen something in Leo, something that Leo himself hadn't recognized yet. The man left without another word, but Leo couldn't shake the feeling that he had just crossed paths with someone who wasn't just another passerby. There was something about him, something mysterious. But what Leo didn't realize was that this chance encounter was no accident. The man wasn't just a diner looking for a meal. He was someone who had been watching, waiting, and his next move would change Leo's life in ways he couldn't possibly understand. The question now was, what had that man seen in Leo? And what did he want from him? The following week passed by without much event. Yet Leo found himself returning to the diner with a sense of restlessness that hadn't been there before. He couldn't shake the memory of the man who had come in and then left without a word, his presence lingering in the air like a faint, unanswered question. Every time Leo tried to focus on the normal flow of his day, his thoughts would inevitably drift back to the man in the corner booth. He had tried to dismiss the power encounter as one of those odd moments that didn't mean anything. But something about it stuck with him, like an itch he couldn't scratch. There was a quiet intensity in the man's eyes, a sense of purpose that Leo couldn't ignore. It made him wonder if he had somehow been part of something far larger than he had realized. The following Friday, Leo was busy preparing for the lunch rush when the doorbell jingled again. He didn't look up, assuming it was just another customer. But when the figure entered, something inside him tensed. There he was, again, the same man, the same quiet air of authority. This time, however, Leo felt a jolt of recognition. It was as if his instincts were suddenly on high alert. But this time, the man didn't sit in the corner booth. Instead, he walked to the counter and sat down at one of the stools, his eyes scanning the diner before landing on Leo. Leo felt a chill run down his spine as their gazes locked. The man didn't smile, didn't say anything at first. He just watched, his gaze steady, as though waiting for something to happen. "Back for more soup?" Leo asked with a forced smile, trying to break the tension. The man nodded slightly, but then his voice came, low and deliberate. "Actually, I'm here to speak with you." Leo's stomach tightened. The words had a weight to them, like the beginning of a story Leo wasn't ready to hear. "What about you?" "Don't know this yet, Leo," the man said. "But you've been chosen." Leo's brow furrowed, confusion turning to mild unease. "Chosen for what?" he asked, his voice betraying more curiosity than he intended. The man paused, as though considering how much to reveal. "For an opportunity," he said simply, "a life-changing one." Leo felt the hairs on the back of his neck rise. What did this man know about him? He wasn't anyone special, just a waiter in a tired diner. But the more the man spoke, the more Leo felt as if he was standing on the precipice of something monumental, something that might change the course of his entire existence. "Who are you?" Leo asked, his voice more urgent now. He needed answers, and he needed them fast. Who was this person who spoke to him like they knew everything about his life? The man's smile was slight, almost imperceptible, a person who sees potential where others don't. Leo shook his head. This was too much. He wasn't ready for this, wasn't prepared for the weight of these words. He was just a simple waiter. For heaven's sake, what could he possibly have to offer that would merit such an opportunity? Before Leo could respond, the man's eyes darted to the door briefly, and then back to Leo. I've been watching you, Leo. I know you're stuck in this place, this life that you can't escape from. But I'm offering you a way out. Leo's heart pounded. What kind of offer are we talking about here? A business offer, the man replied. One that could make you a fortune. But it's not just about the money. It's about who you become when you take that chance. Leo felt a sudden sense of disbelief. A business offer? From someone like you? What's the catch? The man's gaze remained fixed. No catch. Just a choice. You'll find out soon enough whether or not you're ready for what comes next. Before Leo could ask another question, the man stood up and placed a small business card on the counter. Call me when you're ready to make a real decision. As the man walked out, Leo stared at the card in front of him. It was sleek, with a bold, black logo, nothing like the cheap business cards he was used to seeing. It didn't have a name, just a number. Something about it felt ominous. Leo hesitated, but curiosity gnawed at him. Who was this man? And why had he chosen him? Leo sat back down on a stool, his mind racing. Something about this whole situation felt off. This wasn't just a business opportunity, it was something more. But what? The days that followed only deepened the mystery. Leo found himself unable to concentrate. Every conversation, every task at the diner felt like it was happening in a haze. His mind fixated on that card, on the man, and on the cryptic promise he had left behind. He wasn't sure if he should call the number, or if he was walking into something dangerous. But one thing was certain. His life, for better or worse, was about to change forever. That evening, as Leo worked his shift, a familiar face appeared. It was David, the man from the corner booth. He was standing in the doorway, looking exactly as he had the first time they met, calm, collected, and utterly unreadable. Leo's heart skipped a beat. Why was he here again? Leo, David said, his voice low. I need you to come with me. There's someone I want you to meet. Leo hesitated, the weight of his uncertainty pressing down on him. Who was this person? And what did he want with Leo? But something about David's words carried an undeniable gravity. There was no turning back now. As Leo stepped outside with David, he couldn't help but notice a sleek black car parked by the curb. A driver standing at attention next to it. David didn't speak. He simply gestured toward the car. Leo felt his pulse quicken. What was happening? Was this some kind of test? And what if he was making a mistake by stepping into that car? David gave a subtle nod, and without another word, Leo climbed into the back seat. The driver didn't say anything as they drove off, and Leo couldn't shake the sense that he was being led down a path he had never imagined. The car pulled up to an exclusive building on the outskirts of town, a place Leo had seen in passing, but never thought he would enter. David motioned for Leo to follow him inside. They passed through several heavily guarded doors, and soon they were inside a lavish office, where a well-dressed man sat at a desk, looking up as they entered. This is Leo, David introduced. Him, his tone businesslike. The one I told you about. The man behind the desk gave Leo a sharp look, his eyes assessing him, as if Leo were a rare specimen under a microscope. So, you're the one, he said. Interesting. Leo felt his unease grow as he took a seat across from the man. Who was he? What kind of people was he being introduced to? David and the man exchanged a few words that Leo couldn't quite hear, and suddenly the air in the room grew heavy with unspoken tension. What was this all about? And why was he here? Leo could feel the ground shifting beneath him. He had just stepped into a world far beyond anything he'd ever known. And, whatever lay ahead, he knew one thing for sure. Nothing in his life would ever be the same again. The moment Leo entered the building with David, something shifted inside him. The tension in the air was palpable, thick with the sense of entering a world he didn't fully understand. His heart raced with a mixture of curiosity, apprehension, and an unsettling feeling that he might be in over his head. The sleek walls, the cold, professional decor, and the sharp-eyed men in suits, who moved silently around him, all screamed of a world far beyond the diner and the life he knew. David led him through corridors, lined with polished glass and high-end finishes. The hum of activity around him seemed muted, as though the very walls of the building were designed to keep everything secret and confined. They passed by doors that looked like they led to important meetings, whispered conversations, and untold deals. Leo felt like an intruder, out of place, like he was wandering in someone else's dream. He had come to the diner each day with little expectation, accepting his life as it was. But now, everything had changed. As they entered a large conference room, Leo's breath caught in his chest. The room was filled with figures who sat at the long table, each of them exuding an aura of power and influence. The man behind the desk, the one who had spoken earlier, stood to greet him. There was something commanding about him, his sharp gaze seeming to pierce right through Leo. He extended his hand with a small smile, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Welcome, Leo," the man said in a low, measured voice. "I've been waiting for you." Leo shook his hand, his own feeling clammy and unsure. He had no idea who these people were, why he was here, or what was expected of him. The only thing he knew was that his life had spiraled into something unrecognizable. "Please, sit." The man gestured toward the chair at the center of the table, the one that was clearly meant for Leo. Leo hesitated for only a moment before sitting down. He felt the weight of the stares that followed him, every eye in the room trained on him like a predator assessing its prey. This was no longer just an offer of a business opportunity. This was something much bigger. And Leo, for the first time, began to wonder if he was truly prepared for what was to come. David took a seat beside him, his presence both reassuring and intimidating. "You've been chosen, Leo," he said, his tone a mixture of calm authority and something else, something unspoken. "Not by me, but by forces much larger than either of us. We've been watching you for some time now." Leo's mind raced. "What do you mean, chosen? For what?" The man at the head of the table leaned forward, folding his hands. "For something greater than what you've ever known. Something that could change everything for you. But, as you can imagine, there's a price. Nothing worth having comes without sacrifice." Leo's pulse quickened. This wasn't just a job offer. It wasn't a simple decision about a career path. This was something that felt far more sinister. "Sacrifice?" Leo asked, his voice trembling slightly, despite his best efforts to remain composed. "What kind of sacrifice?" The man's eyes gleamed, as though he were enjoying this moment, enjoying watching Leo squirm. "A sacrifice of freedom, for one. A sacrifice of your old life. Once you step into this world, there's no going back." Leo's stomach churned. "I don't understand. You're asking me to give up everything I know, everything that makes me who I am. For what? Power? Money?" The man smiled, but it was cold and calculating. "Not just power or money, Leo. It's about influence, control. You will have the opportunity to shape the future, to be someone who makes decisions that affect the world. But in exchange for that, you will be tied to us. You will owe us your loyalty, your service, your compliance, forever." Leo stared at the man, his mind racing. The room was spinning, the weight of the words sinking in like lead in his chest. This wasn't just an opportunity. It was a contract with consequences. He couldn't even begin to fathom. The walls of the room felt like they were closing in on him, the suffocating air filled with expectation, with the sense that once he made his decision, there would be no turning back. David leaned forward, his eyes locked onto Leo's with an intensity that sent a shiver down Leo's spine. "Think about it carefully, Leo. You've been given a rare chance, one that most people would give anything to have. You can walk away now, if that's what you want. You can go back to your life, continue serving tables in that diner, and nothing will change. But if you take this chance, if you choose us, you will never be the same again." Leo felt the weight of the room bearing down on him, felt the pressure of their eyes all trained on him. His palms were sweating, his heart pounding. This wasn't just a decision between two options. It was a choice that would define the rest of his life. He could feel the familiar pull of his old life, the life of simplicity and safety. It was all he had ever known. The diner, the routine, the quiet certainty that, no matter how little he had, it was his. But now, standing here in this sterile, high-powered room with men who held the world in their hands, he felt like he was being offered the chance to step into something far greater. World of power, money, and influence. But at what cost? David's voice broke through his swirling thoughts. "This is your moment, Leo. Don't let it slip away. You have the power to choose. But remember, if you walk away, that's the end. There will be no second chance. No one gets this offer twice." For a moment, Leo's mind went blank. The world outside, the quiet life he had known, seemed so distant, so far away. He imagined the diner, the endless days of clearing plates and pouring coffee, the customers who came and went, leaving little more than empty chairs behind. Was that really all he was meant to be? Was that really all he could achieve in this world? He glanced at David, who gave him a steady, unwavering look, and then he turned to the man at the head of the table. They were all waiting, watching, their faces unreadable. The decision was his. Make your choice, Leo, the man said quietly. Leo's pulse thundered in his ears. The gravity of the situation hit him like a tidal wave. He had never felt more exposed, more vulnerable, than in this moment. The weight of his choice hung in the air, thick and suffocating. With every part of his being, Leo knew that once he made this choice, there would be no turning back. But there was something else inside him, a deep, unspoken desire for something more. Something greater than he could ever have imagined in the diner, in his old life. This was his shot, his chance to break free from everything that had held him back. Leo opened his mouth to speak, and the words tumbled out, though they felt heavy on his tongue. I choose to stay. The silence in the room was deafening. The decision had been made, and with it, Leo had crossed a threshold. He was no longer the humble waiter in the diner, no longer bound by the constraints of his small life. He had stepped into a world of power and influence. A world where nothing would ever be the same again. But as he made his choice, one question lingered in the back of his mind. Was he truly ready for the consequences of the decision he had just made? And more importantly, was he prepared for the life he had just signed up for? Leo's decision to step into a world of power and influence was the beginning of a transformation he could never have anticipated. As he immersed himself in this new life, the weight of his choice became ever more apparent. The riches, the power, and the opportunities that had once seemed so far out of reach now felt tangible, but so did the sacrifices. His former life, the simplicity he had once known, began to fade into the background as he navigated the complex web of expectations and alliances that came with his new position. Yet, in the midst of all this change, Leo discovered something vital. The true value of his kindness had not only led him to wealth, but to a sense of purpose. It wasn't the riches or power that changed him, it was the realization that he could still make an impact. Even in this new, uncharted world, Leo had found a new sense of self, one that balanced ambition with the values that had guided him all along. His story spread far and wide, inspiring others to take chances, to be kind, and to embrace the power of small, seemingly insignificant acts that could alter the course of their lives forever. If you enjoyed this incredible story of transformation, kindness, and unexpected fortunes, make sure to hit that subscribe button. By subscribing, you'll never miss out on more powerful stories that inspire, challenge, and entertain. We bring you captivating tales that touch hearts, spark motivation, and remind us all that anything is possible with the right mindset. So, join our community today, and let's continue this journey of discovery together. Don't forget to like and share if you believe in the power of small acts changing lives. See you in the next story.